Hello everyone, this is Shannon. Thank you so much for joining me today. In this video, we are going to create this adorable cat card featuring the Be a Cat die, as well as the Simply Plaids stamp set. I'm going to share with you some of my ink blending and masking tips so you get lots of dimension out of this die cut, as well as show you how to cover a full A2 panel with the Simply Plaids stamp set. We're going to start today's card with the Be a Cat die. So this is the main part of the die. There's also some whiskers that you die cut, which I'm going to die cut very last. I actually almost forget them. But you can see the main die will cut out everything you need, including the little stripes that are at the top of the cat's head, the eyes, the nose, everything. So I went ahead and ran it through my die cutting machine with some white cardstock. I removed the eye portions. I'm going to set them aside in my water media mat so I don't lose them. And I have a little piece of contact paper here. This is clear contact paper. If you're not familiar with contact paper, it's typically used to line shelves, but it works really well with your dies. You can die cut it as you see I did here, and I'm going to use this to help me really precision mask off portions of this die this die cut so I can really specifically color different areas. I just removed the nose and added it into the well with the eyes, and now I'm going to trim off portions of my mask. I'm trimming off portions depending on kind of what I want to color differently. So I want to have the inner of the ears pink, so I'm trimming off this inner section of the ear. It's basically just a little triangle, and I'm going to place that over the die cut in the exact same position as the mask was, and that's going to protect that little inside portion of the ear so I can color it pink later. But I'm going to color basically the whole rest of the cat orange. I'm just going to remove the backing on the contact paper and then stick it down. The great thing or surprising thing about contact paper is it doesn't stick really strongly to paper, so you don't have to worry about pulling it off of your paper and it like messing up your cardstock. It works really well for masking. I'm going to use some orange colors for my cat. I'm going to start with Wild Honey Distress Oxide. This is actually going to be my light shade, and I'm going to ink blend around the body and head of this cat. I'm going to leave the center of the face nice and white, the white of the paper. After I've ink blend with my light, I'm going to move on to my medium shade. This is Spiced Marmalade. Again, just going to ink blend around the exterior of the die cut. I'm going to ink blend a little bit less than I did with the Wild Honey because I do want to create kind of a gradation. So the Wild Honey goes closer to the center and my Spiced Marmalade is a little bit more to the exterior. Now I'm going to create another mask or trim off these stripes here from my mask. I'm trimming the inner portion of the stripes out and discarding that. I'm doing that because I actually want these stripes to be a little bit darker than the rest of the cat. So after I've trimmed them, I'll then remove the mask here. I just carefully removed the backing on the contact paper, and then I took my mask and lined it up with the die cut, making sure to get everything lined up as perfectly as possible. And then I'll just stick it right down. And right now I have everything pretty much covered except for those stripes. So I still have those little contact paper triangles over the intersections of the ear, and with the second mask I basically have the whole rest of the cat covered except for the stripes. I'm using Spiced Marmalade and ripe persimmon, mostly ripe persimmon, really to add that darker orange. I used a little bit of the Spiced Marmalade to again create even a gradation over the stripe section as well. Once I finish the stripes, I'll then remove the mask, and now I'm going to trim the head portion away from the body, and then I'm going to grab the body and then stick it down onto my contact paper or onto my die cut, and I'm just going to ink blend a little bit more kind of at the chin of the kitty just to create that separation of body a little bit and again enhance that illusion of roundness of the face. And again, I use my two colors like I did before, Wild Honey and Spiced Marmalade. I'll just remove the mask now. I'm going to move on to some more ripe persimmon. I kind of felt like those stripes were a little too dark and made my cat look more like a tiger and less like a cat. So I just decided to grab some more of that ripe persimmon and ink blend at the very edge of the die cut to kind of incorporate that really dark orange that you see at the stripes. And I think that really helped to kind of tone those stripes down a little bit and incorporate them more into the rest of the cat. I'm now going to remove the little masks that I had on the ears, protecting them and keeping them nice and white. And you see they did a great job. But I guess a little corner did lift up a little bit and I got a little orange there, so I'm just using my Tombow Mono Sand Eraser. This is a super handy tool. If you don't have one, you need to get one. And just erased some of that little bit of ink that got onto the tip of the ear. Now I'm going to grab the head mask and protect kind of the head now so I can ink blend the inner portion of the ear pink. I'm just going to do a little tiny bit of ink blending here with worn lipstick just to add a little bit of tint to the inner ear. And I really think, again, this really helps to add lots of interest to this image with all these different colors. Now remove the mask, and there you see we got our little ears done. Now I'm going to grab the nose and I'm going to use some more worn lipstick, kind of ink blend the whole nose with that, and then I'm going to grab a little bit of picked raspberry the best I can and just ink blend the very bottom portion of the nose to again create a little bit of a gradation. I'm just going to pop that nose in so I can kind of get a look at it, and now I'm going to move on to the eyes. So I have some Distress ink here, and I'm just going to use it to ink blend the eyes. This is black soot, so just a nice black color, and just really get those eyes fully covered. Now that I've got them done, I'm really ready to kind of assemble this cat. So I have some micro pour tape here. You could really even use the Scotch tape, but I like how this tape has kind of like a matte kind of texture, and I think it just glues a little bit better. So I just added a bit of it to the back side of my die cut of my cat. And so now those eyes and nose openings are a little bit sticky, a little bit tacky, and I'm just going to pop in the die cut. So just do a little inlay die cut here, and once I get that stuck down, really my cat is pretty much done. I really love how this little kitty turned out. I am partial to orange kitties because I have one myself. So now I'm going to show you how to cover an A2 panel with the Simply Plaids stamp set. I really love the stamp set. It's great for creating beautiful, interesting backgrounds. And I'm going to start with a misty corner here. That's just going to keep my cardstock away from the edge, and that will allow me to stamp the whole entire half of the A2 panel. I'm now going to position my stamp just a little bit beyond halfway. The stamp covers just a little bit more than half of an A2 panel. Once I have it in position, I then picked it up with my Misty, and now I'm going to ink it up with Spun Sugar Distress Oxide, and then just stamp that top portion of my panel. Now I'm going to remove my panel and then remove my stamps. I've already cleaned my stamp here off camera. I'm just going to pick it up off of my Misty. I have to reposition my stamp here because I didn't stamp it directly halfway, and so I'm just going to reposition it and align it. This also makes sure that I get perfect kind of alignment of my two plaids. So right now I'm looking through the stamp and really trying to make sure that I've got the lines matched up on the plaid with the stamped section and now of the stamp. Once I've got it all perfectly aligned, I then pick up my stamp and then ink it up with some more spun sugar and stamp the other portion of the A2 panel. And you can see here how easy it is to cover a whole A2 panel with one of those stamps from the Simply Plaids stamp set. I'm now going to move on to creating my sentiment. I have the Jars Sentiment stamp set. This stamp set also came out in Waffle Flower's February release. I'm going to do some heat embossing, so I'm applying some anti-static powder down onto some black cardstock first. Then I'm going to ink up my sentiment in Versamark ink. Just stamp it using my Misty. Then I will pick up my cardstock, dip it into some white embossing powder, tap off the excess, and then I'll heat set with my heat tool. This is definitely kind of a very classic way to do sentiment, but I still love just black and white sentiments. I'm now going to move on to creating a little present to put in the kitty's hand. I love that the Be a Cat die cuts the arms so you can kind of pop them up and put things inside. I just physically cut a little square here. This is 1 inch by 1 inch, which is actually a little bit too big. And now I'm going to mask off the sides of the square because I'm going to create the look of a ribbon on the present. I just kind of eyeballed the center and then put the masking tape on either side of it. And then I'm now going to use worn lipstick and then a little bit of picked raspberry, the same colors that I used for the cat's nose, to kind of incorporate that pink, and then ink blend on the present as well as this bow. This bow was die cut with another die set from the February release. This little bow is from the Spring Basket die set, which is a really, really cute kind of Easter themed basket set. Really beautiful dies there. So I just finished ink blending, and now I'm going to carefully remove the tape, and you can see that creates a perfect little ribbon for my present. And now I'm going to move on to kind of putting my card together. The first thing that I need to do is die cut the whiskers. Remember at the very beginning I said I almost forgot to do it. I really did. So I quickly die cut the whiskers out of some white cardstock, and I have those on my water media mat here. Because they're white, they kind of really blend in, but trust me, they're there. I'm going to glue down my Simply Plaid panel onto an A2 top folding white card base. Now I'm going to add some foam tape to the back side of my cat to add some dimension. If you notice there's some grid marks on the back side of my cardstock, that is because I'm using some kind of slightly damaged Creative Monthly sheets that Waffle Flower makes, and they have like a grid on them. I just use the other side, try to be a little green, and I just removed the backing on the foam tape and stuck that down. I'm going to glue the sentiment right below the cat, and then I'm going to move on to the whiskers. I have some Tombow mono glue, and I'm going to add a little bit of glue right along the impression that the die makes in the cat, so right where the whisker's supposed to go, and then I'll use some tweezers here and carefully kind of put those whiskers in place. I think these whiskers add such a cute detail. I love how fine and delicate they are. They just really, I think, complete the kitty. So I'm just going to finish up the other side here, but you may have noticed already that somehow along the way I bumped or knocked my sentiment below the kitty a little askew. So right now it's not nice and straight, and I don't notice it till much later. Luckily I am able to fix it, but I don't notice it until I kind of start working on the present. So I just finished those whiskers, and now I'm going to try to get this present into her arms. You may remember me saying that my present right now is 1 inch by 1 inch. It is a little too big, so I do end up trimming it. And here's where I finally noticed that sentiment. Luckily the glue had not set completely, and I was able to just kind of slide it up a little bit. I'm going to lift open her hands here. Now this is where I made kind of a big mistake, leaving all my mistakes in this video here. I put the foam tape down and forgot to kind of pop her hands up before I put the foam tape down. So the foam tape was kind of holding her hands flush with the rest of her body and made it a little bit difficult for me to pull up. So I just kind of used my tweezers and helped pry those arms away from her body. And I had to go ahead and trim that present down to 3/4 of an inch by 3/4 of an inch, because 1 inch was just a little bit too big to fit within her arms. And now I'm going to pop that present with a little bit of foam tape in between her arms, add the little bow on top, and then to finish this card I'm going to use some Nuvo crystal drops. This is Morning Dew, a clear Nuvo, and I'm just going to add a little bit to the eyes. I think this is the perfect final detail here because it's really going to make those eyes pop and be shiny. I just let that dry completely, and now I'll hold it to the camera so you can get a good look at this card. I just love how this card turned out. It's so simple and so sweet. I think the fact that you can put different things within the kitty's arms just makes it really versatile. You could really change it up for whatever season or occasion you want to make a card for. And I also think that you could not only ink blend this to get different colors, but you could use different color cardstock, so you can really make this kitty whatever color, shade, or texture you'd really want. I hope you guys enjoyed today's card and video. For more information on the products I use, please check out the links below. You can also follow me on Instagram or check out my blog. I'll share those links as well. And if you like this video, I'd love for you to subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day.